We're not the suits that talk football. We're the dudes that know football. And you've just crossed over into the Trend Zone. Dave here with Casey. We are the football dudes. Are you ready, brother?
Hell yes, bro.
Next stop, the Trend Zone. And it is Wednesday, December 11th. We're coming after you from Los Angeles, California. It is a beautiful, actually mostly cloudy, 65 degrees.
Still
Not too
beautiful.
bad.
Still
Not too bad.
beautiful.
Lovely day out there. In today's episode, we'll talk about an old coach in a new place, who's in and who's out. Injury bug keeps biting. A little survivor fantasy go back starts of the week, and some, oh, no, all of the most awesome
You
games
got
coming
that
up
right.
this week in the NFL. But Casey, we cannot take a trip into the Trend Zone without a tasty nug for the people. Please tell that you are holding and
Oh,
sharing.
you know I'm holding, Dave. Actually, I got nugs in both hands because we have a couple killer games this weekend. Bills, Lions, Steelers, Eagles. Give the NFL his best pair of Week 15 games since 1985, dude. And these are
Woo!
both potential Super Bowl matchups. The
Yeah.
only problem is, dude, they're kicking off at the same time. Totally brutal. They really screwed this one up. Maybe we could have flexed that a little bit, get it right. But nonetheless, it doesn't matter for guys like us because we have 8 televisions and we will watch all the action. But Dave, those are going to be great games, huge playoff implications all over the place, home field, whatever. Bye week, it's going to be outstanding, dude.
No doubt about it. Some blockbuster guns, and I am super stoked that I'm going to be able to swap them back and forth during commercials and check out all of the action, not miss a single minute of those tasty, tasty nug
Mhm.
football games. Delicious.
Oh,
All
yeah.
righty, Case. Let's move it on. Oh, before I do that, let's talk about the Trend Zone, now available for subscription. Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Amazon Music, wherever you get your podcasts, you can subscribe and download and listen to the Trend Zone by us, the football dudes. Casey, top trending stories. Bill Belichick is honing in on a new deal. What's the deal with that?
Yeah, just where everybody thought he'd go. Bill Belichick found his thrill on Chapel Hill. What the hell's going on, dude? He's finalizing a deal to be the next head football coach at North Carolina.
Wow.
Supposedly a 3-year, $30 million deal. Belichick's never coached in college. I don't know if that meant there weren't NFL jobs or he didn't want to sit around and wait. But dude, I can't imagine that he's gonna like dealing with NIL stuff and
Yeah.
re-recruiting your players every year. I know guys are gonna want to come play there, but I didn't actually anticipate this one happening. But you know what, Dave? All those sorority babes cruising around campus, right in line with Bill, baby. So it'll
That's
be
right.
interesting to see. He's not going to get closer to Don Shula though, and I think that's what really is motivating this cat to keep going.
Yeah, I mean, no doubt about it. This one is a shocker to me. And now, if
Mhm.
you were telling me he was honing in on that Cowboys job or the Jets job or something like that, that would have sounded more, like his speed. But
Yeah.
it is going to be, like you said, the NIL, the 24/7 recruiting of your own players, not to mention other players, high school kids, the whole deal. He's obviously said he's going to give it sort of an NFL treatment. So he's going to be the overseer of all kinds of activities and have a bunch of people doing his bidding.
Yeah, there's supposedly this huge manifesto that he brought to the table, so we'll see if anything that happens like that. And he's got that NFL credibility like Deion Sanders does, but he just doesn't have quite the same swag that Primetime has. But who knows? He is a great coach, and you could do a lot worse than getting a 6-time Super Bowl champ
Yeah, and
as
those
your head
that say,
coach.
behind the scenes and stuff, that he is a lot less buttoned up than his press conference
Yeah,
style. So maybe the kids will get a different taste of who Bill Belichick is when it's up close and personal on a daily basis.
definitely puts North Carolina on the football map.
It sure does, doesn't it?
Mhm.
Okay, moving along, Casey. Some teams have clinched previously, some teams have been eliminated, and some teams clinched this weekend. There are clinching snare. There's a lot of clinching going on here, Casey.
Yeah, I was clinching on Monday night, but it didn't help. We have
Nope.
2 division winners, no shock here, the Buffalo Bills and the Kansas City Chiefs. The Eagles and the Lions both wrapped up playoff spots. And Dave, pour one out for, I know, don't get choked up, for the Raiders,
Yeah.
for the Patriots,
Yeah.
joining the Giants, Browns, Jags, Jets, and Titans. Cowboys could make that list this weekend too if all goes awry, which
Yeesh.
we'll see.
Yeah. Some teams can clinch, Casey. Those teams would be the Texans, Steelers, Packers, and Vikings. Some way or another find themselves booking themselves a ticket to be in the playoffs.
Yeah, just win your damn football games and all that other shit will work itself out. So we're
Yeah.
not going to get into all that. Just these guys have an opportunity to extend their seasons.
No doubt about it. All right, Casey, the NFL is moving into Berlin. It is going to play its first regular season game in Berlin in 2025. The expansion of the international product here continues for the NFL. And we know, based on NFL Europe back in the day, that Germany does love American football.
No shiza, Dave. They love their football. We saw with
And
the
their
Rhine
strudel.
Fire, the Frankfurt Galaxy, the Centurions, baby. They loved it over there.
Yep.
And this was a huge success last year into Germany. So more to come. Global domination all over the place. They're talking about Madrid maybe as well. So we know we're getting our London game. So the international flavor is what the NFL craves. And like I said, just global domination, circling the globe, going everywhere. That's pretty exciting.
That just reminded me of the Barcelona Dragons there, dude. As
What
well as the
about the
Frankfurt.
Scottish Claymores?
That's right, the Frankfurt Galaxy, man. I just love those good old days. But thankfully, Spring League is back, Casey. They've actually said they're going to push it conceivably to as many as 8 regular season games outside the United States up next season, 2025. So that's pretty adventurous and pretty awesome, the expansion of the international product for the NFL.
And it gives us that 6 a.m. game, which
That's
we
right.
love here too. So four banger, love it.
Yeah, and we got that Friday heading into that opening weekend. That one in Sao Paulo was
Oh
fucking awesome.
yeah,
Excuse my language. All right, Case, let's move on. Unfortunately, the injury bug keeps on biting. Handful of guys out for the remainder.
yeah. Derek Carr, he has that left hand fracture. It looked like he might have had a concussion too, dude. It did not look good the way he crunched on the ground there, but that's probably gonna be it. Jake Hayner and Spencer Rattler there. They'll battle to see who's gonna start to finish the season. Aiden O'Connell, dude, a knee. That's probably a season-ending injury for him as well. They already lost Gardner Minshew, so it's going to be
Wow.
Des Ritter
Yeah.
coming in. He's not even been on the squad, I think, for a month maybe.
Yeah.
So this
Wow.
late in the season, but you know what, Dave? They're tanking because they want to get Shedeur Sanders. So it really doesn't matter what happens with the Raiders. Running back wise, a total bummer, dude. Jonathan Brooks tore
Big
his
time.
ACL again, had just recovered from that. He tore it at Texas, just been back. I hate to see it happen. Chuba's been great, but it's just a bummer for the young player. Bucky Irving, he might play this week. He's got the bad back, and he has been outstanding. Your guy, Will Disley, he's looking at coming back week 17, maybe shoot it up. He's got that shoulder there. More Bucks injuries. Antoine Winfield Jr., he's got the knee sprain. He's probably not going to play. Lots of injuries for the Bucks, but Dave, more
Ooh,
brutal than all of that shit is
yeah.
my guy, Agent Zero, DeMarvion Overshown, man. I don't know if you saw it when you're watching, but it was absolutely
Brutal.
brutal. He got rolled up on by one of those big hosses up front, and you knew it was bad right when you saw it. Even worse than we thought. It's the ACL, the MCL, and the PCL. So
Is there a CL left in there?
I don't think so, dude. Luckily, there's no nerve damage in the patellas in place, but this is probably going to put him out all of next year too, which is a total bummer because he has been one of the bright spots on this Cowboys
Yeah.
team, and he's been playing great football. So hopefully, he's able to bounce back from this. It's going to be a long, arduous process, but you just hate to see it, man. This guy is such a special player. So hopefully he can rehab it and be the player he was before this, but just brutal, dude,
Yeah.
especially as on a season like it has been
I
for
mean,
the
to try and
Cowboys.
find a silver lining is hard, but he's young. The likelihood of a full recovery with a good surgery and all that, hopeful that this guy can be back to the rising star that he was showing
Yeah,
himself to be.
total
All right,
bummer.
Casey, we will move it on to Total Fantasy Domination. Who's your quarterback?
You know who it is, dude. It's Josh freaking Allen, bro, for the Luna Tunas and the Buffalo Bills. 6 touchdowns in a loss, Dave. Are you kidding me? 342
Unreal.
pass yards, 3 pass touchdowns, 82 rushing yards, and 3 rushing touchdowns, bro, in a loss.
He's an alien.
Alien, dude.
Yeah. All right. Moving on to the running back. It is Zach Charbonnet for the Seahawks, and my lightning strikes. Nonetheless, of course, it's been one of those seasons he was on my bench for this lovely
Ooh.
performance. 134, 2 rushing touchdowns, and 59 receiving yards.
Damn, he wasn't in there for your McCaffrey?
No, he wasn't. I put in Garendo in there for
Oh.
McCaffrey.
Yeah, he had a good half.
He did. Yeah, and so did
Oh.
Achan. That was the other guy I played.
And
So.
I happened to be going against this guy in my other league, Jordan Addison, also on lightning strikes. Tell me this guy wasn't on your bench, Dave.
He was playing.
Oh, thank goodness. So
Woo!
you got those 133 receiving yards and the
Yep.
3 touchdowns.
Yeah, he was spectacular. At tight end, it's George Kittle. He's also for the Lunatunas and San Francisco 49ers, 151 receiving yards for Kittle. Pretty nice game for him there, for sure.
Oh, yeah.
All right, fantasy go-backs of the week. Casey, we go back in time and ask, could we have done better as owners, blah, 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 et cetera, et cetera. Did you have any fantasy go-backs for this week?
Yeah, well, not in our league. I've been dead for a while, but in my other league, I went ahead and I benched the Green Bay Packers defense because they were going up against that high-powered Detroit offense.
Good
And
idea.
instead, I played the Buffalo Bills, Dave. So
Oh.
I ended up getting 0 points. Had I put in the pack, I would have had 3 points. It would have been enough to keep me alive just to be lose a head-to-head battle for the last playoff spot in my child league. So I am officially dead, but thank God we got the losers bracket, baby.
Right. I'm all about the losers bracket in our league. I'm in the real playoffs in the other league. But here's my fantasy go back, Casey. I previously mentioned I had Zach Charbonnet on my bench with his 31.3 in our league over Devon Achan, who had a 12.9. I also had, I could have played Juwan Jennings, who got a 21 over Malik Neighbors, who got a 9.9. So that would have been plus 29.5. I could have gotten over my score, which was 136.32, the top score of the weekend. If I'd have added that to it, it would have been 165.82, the top score ever in our league. Would you believe that?
I don't believe that's the top
Okay,
score
would you
ever.
believe it would have been the top score this season?
I believe that.
Okay, I don't even know. I didn't double check.
Oh, dude. Yeah, you just were hoping you got to see Drew Lock do his little dance after a touchdown to Malik Neighbors.
That's right.
Instead, you
Hey,
got
though,
a black
tell you what,
fly
I
and
did
your
get in
Charbonnet.
I got in the money, though, and that's the all I can ask for this team that's been so injury-plagued all season. Put it together on 1 week, and I think that I beat the number 1 team in the Purple Sabbath.
Oh,
So,
yeah. They're going to lose in the first round of the playoffs anyways, dude.
yeah, look
Book
how
it.
vulnerable they are. All right,
Mhm.
moving on to the Survivor 3 strikes. I have been quite dead for some time now, Casey, but tell the people, what about last week's most popular correct pick and incorrect pick?
Oh, they had him squirming, baby. It was those Philadelphia Eagles, dude, scoring late to beat the Panthers, almost taking down 26% of the
Ooh.
country. And the most popular incorrect pick was the Tennessee Titans over the Jacksonville Jaguars, baby, almost 6%. And Dave, I rolled with the Pittsburgh Steelers, so I live another week.
Nice. All right, Casey, if you still are alive, such is the case with yourself, there are a couple of decent picks out there. What you got?
Yeah, we got the Chefs over the Brownies, 28% of the country. The Ravens over the Giants, over 17%. Dave, I still have the Ravens. And the
Ooh.
Cardinals over the Patriots for just over 10%.
Wow. Pretty impressive stuff there, people that are hanging in. The beginning of the season was just such an onslaught,
Oh, yeah, it was
obviously,
brutal, dude.
taking out superstars such as myself. Casey, nonsense is over. Let's get on to the real stuff, the game previews. That's what the people are tuning in for. This week in particular has some not so good games. And then, as we mentioned previously, some really epic games. It is week 15, so things are heating up.
Wait, what did you say?
Yeah, I said it is heating up because it is week 15, sir.
Week 15?
And that is the number
It's slipping away.
Let's slip on into Thursday night, Casey. Let's
Oh,
get things
dude.
started.
This has huge playoff ramifications. See what I did there, Dave? Yeah. Pew, pew, pew. Drew Lock. Pew, pew, pew. It is our Los Angeles Rams at the San Francisco 49ers. And the Niners are 3-point favorites at home. But Dave, who's going to want to mess with these Rammies if they sneak into the playoffs, dude?
No kidding. 7-6, yes. But last year they rose to the occasion as the season shaped towards the playoffs. This year the same is occurring. They beat the Bills last week in that shootout, 42. What a game that was!
Mm-hmm.
Here's the deal, though: Rams are 2-1 in the division, so including this game against the Niners, they have 3 divisional games left. They're just 1 game behind Seattle, who they already beat, and they still play in the final week of the season. So if they can go on a run and win all the remaining games, they'll end up 5-1 in the division. They'll win the division because they'll beat Seattle in that last week, and they'll be on their way to the playoffs. But of course, you have to start by beating these Niners.
Yeah, dude, and these Niners, bro, it has been all kinds of injuries for these guys
Yep.
all season long. McCaffrey goes down, Mason goes down, Guarendo goes down. I don't even know who their 4th string running back is, dude. Maybe you line up Debo if he's safe to go in this thing. Bosa, he's been out. Trent Williams, he's been out, dude. It's starting to catch them all those extra games they played. But that being said, they are just a game out of this thing. But dude, here's where it gets good gnarly for these cats. Rams this week, at Miami next week, hosting the Lions, then at the Cardinals, dude. I think it's just too much this year, too many injuries. And yeah, I think that playoff run comes to an end for these Niners.
Yeah, no question about that. It has been a tough season for the Niners. The fact that they're still in contention even at this point is pretty impressive. All right,
Yeah.
let's move it to the early slot on Monday morning. We'll get it started here with the Kansas City Chiefs at the Cleveland Browns in, well, not a great game, at least when you look at the records, but the Browns have been playing better. The Chiefs on the road are only favored by 4.
Yeah, because all they do is win 1-score games, Dave. I'm sure you're gonna have some
10 in a
thoughts on
row.
that as we get there. It's insane what they do. It's
Yeah.
just close enough. We talked about all season long. They're just trying to get to the postseason. They fought through a ton of injuries too. Miss Pacheco most of the year. He's back. Rashi Rice been gone most of the year. They just find a way to get it done. There's some rumblings that Hollywood Brown might be back. That would be so
Yeah.
Chiefs-esque to get that guy back for the playoffs. Have
Yeah.
him and DeAndre Hopkins and Travis Kelsey. And then in backfield, you got Samaje P. Ryan, Pacheco, and Kareem Hunt. It's all lining up there for the Chiefs. This game is going to be close, and they're going to find a way to win it late.
Yeah.
Cleveland, it's got a different vibe with Jameis, but just
Yeah.
too little, too late.
Yeah.
But they have big decisions to make moving forward. Is Jameis going to be the guy into next year?
Yeah.
I would like to see that over Deshaun, but that's for a different set of eyeballs, ears, and whatnot.
Yeah, that's definitely an off-season decision and a doozy for those Browns who still owe the other dude quite a bit of money, and obviously Jameis has been balling for
Yeah, all right, Dave. We got a Super Bowl rematch. You got pumped, and then I told you it was
him.
actually the Baltimore Ravens at the New York Giants. Dude, this might be the biggest spread all season. The Ravens -16. Are you kidding me?
Yeah, I heard 16.5 in some areas too. So
Ugh.
just an absolutely, man, is this where you put your money on the Giants?
That won't work in my head, Dave. I see the 16, but
Right?
I still can't. I'm like, is it enough? I don't know.
Yeah. How about these Ravens coming off their bye last week? But before that, they lost to Philly, and that was a real big game there. So they're just sitting at 8-5. But in their bye week, they went from the 6th seed to the 5 seed where they currently reside. They are 2 games back of Pittsburgh in the division, though. So it's a pretty tough, call there to think that they might have a chance at that. It is actually a 3-way tie at 8-5. For the seedings there for all the wild cards in the AFC. So if they want to maintain their seeding, they cannot afford to lose, especially a game like this that they got to have, right? On the season, Baltimore still 32nd defensively against the pass, but number 1 versus the run. Seems like a better defense against the pass than that when I've been seeing them play, but the numbers tell the story. They are 3rd in sacks, though, with 41. So maybe that's one of the reasons they're able to stop some teams. Up next, so they have Pittsburgh after this. So, and then after that, Houston and Cleveland. So, some winnable games in there, but it's also some tough opponents there. Giants on the other side, this season unraveled long ago for these guys. And then they moved on from Daniel Jones. They lost last week to the Saints. That was their 8th in a row. So they're one of 2-11 teams. Then they currently hold the 2 pick in the draft, and they do need a quarterback. The number one pick is the Raiders, and they've got to need a quarterback there too. Speaking of quarterbacks, Drew Lock is in a walking boot, and not likely it'll be Tommy DeVito in this game taking the
Tommy
snap.
Cutlets, baby.
Yeah, so
Oh,
all
yeah.
right.
Yeah.
All right, let's move it on, Casey. It's your Dallas Cowboys at the Carolina Panthers. And at home, this shocker, folks, the Panthers are favored by 2.5 in this one. It's been a while.
Dude, Panthers playing pretty good
They have been.
football, man. Bryce Young, after sitting down, being benched for those games, has really
Yep.
come back and is playing some pretty good football. And you like to see it. Maybe not so much this week,
Yeah.
but they could have had a couple more wins. They could have beat the Chiefs and they could have beat the Bucks. So, but good teams win those close games like the
Yep.
Chiefs, and bad teams lose close games like the Panthers. Speaking of bad teams losing close games, Cowboys had the game on Monday night. How often is it you block a punt and it ends up going against you?
It cost
Just had a
the
little
game.
a brain fart there and touched the ball. I feel so bad for this guy, but gave Joe Burrow and that offense new life, and they went and did those Cowboys. But we talked about it earlier. DeMarvion overshown, getting hurt. Brutality, adding injury to insult. But Dave, at some point, we got to see Trey Lance. Jared's holding out hope that this team is still in the mix. It's not in the mix. They are playing better and stuff. The defense has been pretty solid. Offensive line's working some pieces in there, but there is no postseason hope. We got to see what Trey Lance is, dude.
Yeah.
I mean, come on.
He's going to be a free agent or whatever, and you've traded a fourth rounder for him.
Yeah, it just doesn't make sense. But I guess you have to play until you're out of it. But we also know what Cooper Rush is. So at some point, you guys see Trey Lance, at least see Trey Lance package. Whoa. Okay, Dave, moving on. It's the Washington Commanders at the New Orleans Saints, and the Commandos are 7.5-point favorites.
Yeah. Commanders 8-5 coming off their bye. But before that, they crushed Tennessee to break that 3-game losing streak that they were on. Looked like this was, a surefire playoff team earlier in the season. Now they're holding on to that 7th and final wild card in the NFL, NFC rather, excuse me, and they cannot afford a letdown, or this whole season could just go down the tubes just like that. They're just one game in front of the surging Rams, as we talked about before, for that final wild card spot. And up next for the Commanders after this, which should be an easier game, they'll play Philadelphia, Atlanta, and then finish with Dallas.
Ooh.
So they cannot afford to screw around. Saints 5-8, having beaten the Giants last week, but unfortunately they lose Derek Carr in the game. And with 8 losses, an interim head coach, and a backup quarterback, playoffs seem unlikely at best, right? They're currently picking 10th in the draft next year. Looking forward to seeing them sort of start fresh and add some new life into that.
Oh yeah, and Alvin
team.
Kamara having a little sickness this week, so he's probably going to play. But let's see what happens with that.
Hopefully.
All right, this has playoff implications, Dave. It's the Miami Dolphins at the Houston Texans, and the Texans are 3-point favorites at home.
Yeah, I tell you what, this Dolphins team sitting at 6-7, and they were sort of left for dead when Tua was out. It seemed like, hey, that maybe next year, blah blah blah. But they eked out a win over the Jets in overtime last week to keep their playoff hopes alive. They're pretty much in the position where they have to run the table here, just about, if they want to have any help, any chance at all, and they're going to need to get some help. They are 2 games back of the final wild card spot. And if they can find a way to get the win versus the Texans with this week, this is going to be a tough game. Then they've got some winnable games coming up. After this, it'll be San Francisco, then come up on Cleveland and the Jets. All of those games, they'll have a pretty legit shot at winning. But they need to get, basically, like I said, I don't know how many more losses they can afford if they're going to climb back from 2 games back with 4 games left.
Yeah, dude. And these Texans, man, everybody was anointing them going into this year, and it's just not been that as good as it was last year. Still right in the mix. They're sitting at 8-5. They have a home game coming off a bye. When they give Joe Mixon the ball, good things have happened. Been kind of banged up, receivers in and out. Defense has been pretty solid, but Stroud hasn't had the season that he did last year. But that being said, they're probably not going to get caught by the Colts. But Dave, They have the Dolphins this week, at Kansas City next week, Baltimore the following week, and then they are at Tennessee. So
Woo.
depending what these Colts can do, it's not just a gimme that these guys are in there. The South will get that 4 seed no matter what and host a home game, but you want to go in feeling good about yourself. Maybe they got rested up on the bye week and they'll do that, but it's not a given that these guys are in the playoffs like everybody thought it was going to be.
Yeah, no question. All right. Up next, it is the Cincinnati Bengals on the road to play the Tennessee Titans. Bengals are favored by 5 in this one.
Yeah, Cincinnati was dead to rights on Monday night, dude. After that pump blocked, got the
Oh,
ball back, and Joe Burrow made him play, dude.
yeah,
Jamar Chase, dude, absolutely insane. And
dude.
Joe B finally gets a win for how well he's been playing. I think he had like 3 games of 300 yards and 3 touchdowns and has lost them all.
Yeah.
They were headed towards a loss, but they found a way to get that game, gave them a little bit of life. I think it might be a little bit too late for this, sitting at 5-8, but they're going to play a Tennessee Titans team that's got all kinds of questions and not a lot of answers. So if Bengals, they're going to have to run the table, and it starts with beating the Texans on Sunday.
No doubt about it. We've kind of thought this whole season that 8th loss, that's the one that
Mm-hmm.
really nails you in terms of being able to muster up a playoff berth. But we'll see. Obviously, no margin for error for these Bengals.
All right, Dave. Both of these teams have 0 chance of making the playoffs.
That's
It's
right.
New York Jets at the Jacksonville Jaguars, and the Jets are 3.5-point favorites in this one.
Yep,
Ugh,
this Jets
pick 'em.
3-10 Jets squad has been a disaster. They fired Saleh, fired GM Joe Douglas. The Aaron Rodgers era has been an enormous, huge disappointment. The Jets will obviously have a new GM, head coach, and probably a new starting quarterback. Although I'm pretty sure, based on the cap numbers, that they would have to take a cap hit of $49 million. They could spread that over
Ugh.
2 years to have Rodgers go away. Maybe they'll stick with him. Who knows? They currently pick 7th in next year's draft. The Jaguars 3-10. Also, they lost Trevor Lawrence last week with that brutal concussion. He'll be next. He'll be back next year. Well, it was 2 weeks ago with the concussion. He'll be back next year, of course. But will there be a new head coach? Shad Khan called this the best Jags team ever assembled under his watch, and they have woefully underachieved this year under Doug Peterson. So are they moving on from Peterson? We'll have to find out what their decision is in the offseason. They currently pick 5th in next year's draft.
Oh, man. Ugh, yeah. Ugh. Jags and Jets.
Yep.
Disaster.
Disappointing seasons. Both. I mean, it's hard to say who's more disappointing, Both these teams
one of
were
those
hoping for
teams has
playoffs.
a Super Bowl MVP and the other does not, but it was a generational can't miss guy, and all these teams
Golden
have done
boy.
is miss. Ugh.
Yep.
Give me
All right,
something
up
good,
next.
Dave.
Yeah, move it to the late slot where there's some sweet games starting it off here with the Buffalo Bills at the Detroit Lions, and the Lions are favored by 1.5 in this game.
Yeah, dude, and this is our everybody wins Super Bowl preview because you couldn't find anybody not stoked about this other than maybe a couple bitter Packer fans, if that were to be the case. But when you talk the Buffalo Bills, you got to start with Josh Allen, and this guy is a sick freak, dude. We mentioned it in Total Fantasy Domination, 424 yards, 6 touchdowns last week. He's the first player in NFL history to have 3 touchdown passes and 3 rushing touchdowns in a single game. Dude, he's got 5 career games with at least 2 TDs and 2 rushing touchdowns, dude. That passes Hall of Famer Steve Young 4 games for the most in NFL history, dude. This guy, you run out of superlatives for him because he is just so fun to watch. But that being said, they got a lot of shit that they got to get right. We had these guys just as a given they were going because they were so high powered, and nobody had them getting knocked off by the Rams last week. So the Lions do some very similar stuff to what the Rams do. So maybe we've seen some vulnerable aspects to this Bills team, but maybe after that they'll get it right for this Detroit game, but it's going to be no easy task going into Detroit Rock City and trying to get a win there. But this is an important game, dude, because Now Pittsburgh is trying to creep up. They could snag that 2 seed if Buffalo doesn't watch out. So
Yeah,
I
yeah.
hope this game lives up to the hype that my mind is building it up to be, because I'm really stoked to see this thing.
Yeah, no doubt. Totally stoked. The Lions are 12-1, as we know, and they have not lost since week 2. They snuck out a win last week versus the Packers, and that was a tight game. They just had to pull that one out at the end there. Goff again, he great, going 32 of 41, 283, 3 touchdowns and a pick. Constantly, he's having an MVP season now. He's kind of being overshadowed, obviously, by the guy on the other side here. But he's having a phenomenal season. He had 6 different receivers for at least 5 catches each. So he's
Wow.
really balancing it out. In fact, super balanced on offense. They are 4th in both rushing and passing right now. So super awesome. The offense is 2nd in yards and number 1 in points scored at 32 plus points a game. Defensively strong too, 10th in yards and tied for 2nd in points given up at 18 points a game. They're great taking care of the football. They're +8 in the turnover ratio. But here's the big picture. They're the 1 seed, which is great news. At 12-1, you expect that, but they're just a game in front of Philadelphia and just 1 game in front of Minnesota in their own division. So it's gonna be, you can't slip up here or that bye goes away. You might not even win the division the way things are going in that incredible division that they're in. Up next after this huge game, should they drop it, who knows? But it would be Chicago, San Francisco, and then finish the season versus Minnesota. Interesting. Could that game mean the division is on the line?
And this Lions team wants to stay indoors for the playoff run. You don't want to mess around and go outdoor to Philadelphia, dude. So
No,
this is
no, sir.
important, and it's a big stretch coming up too. It's going to be interesting to see. All right, Dave, up next, another huge potential
Huge.
Super Bowl preview. It's the Pittsburgh Steelers at the Philadelphia Eagles. And the Eagles are 5.5-point favorites in this one, dude. How are the Steelers going to like that point spread? I don't
Yeah,
think at
they're
all.
not. This is the battle for Pennsylvania, dude. I'll tell you, this is going to be a good one. Steelers 10-3, coming off that win versus the Browns that got them their a little vengeance from a couple of weeks prior. They won 7 of the last 8 games. 6 of those games have come since they switched to Russell Wilson at quarterback, which has really made their offense a lot more balanced and productive. They're 9th in rushing and 10th in points offensively with 24.5 or 24.8 points a game, excuse me. Pittsburgh is really all about the defense, though. Let's be honest. It's a very good defense there. They're 7th in yards, 4th versus rush, and 5th in points at 18 points a game, 18.3. They are number 1 in the league with 28 takeaways. So that's a big thing for them to get the football back to their offense. And they are tied for 1st in the league with a turnover ratio of +17 on the season. So currently the 3 seed, like you said, sort of sneaking up, but they do lose that tiebreaker to Buffalo. But they have a brutal kind of schedule. This schedule is brutal for the rest of the year. Up next, Baltimore, and they already beat the Ravens, who they play again next week, as I just mentioned. So they have a 2-game lead in the division. That's pretty good because they hold the tiebreaker and a 2-game lead. But after that, Kansas City, then Cincinnati to finish the season for these Steelers. Arguably the toughest schedule for any team to finish out the year with these 4 teams that they've got to play.
And if Cincy is trying to get into the playoffs and that last game means something to them,
Yeah.
you're going to see Joe Shiesty and those Bengals try to do something. But Dave, a team that is doing something is these Philadelphia Eagles, dude. I think it's 9 in a row for them. The number 1 rushing team in the NFL at 190 yards a game, dude.
Ooh.
Obviously, it's Saquon that is doing the magic there, dude. This cat is averaging over 6 yards a carry, over 1,600 yards on the season. He's got his sights set on not only 2,000, maybe breaking the record. I don't know if we're going to see that happen or not, but he's really infused life into this offense. And it's weird, dude. We're starting to hear some disgruntled nature coming out of there. A.J. Brown doesn't seem to be too happy. There seems to always be some crap with Philadelphia. If it's that scumbag Sirianni or guys feuding, I don't know if it's just because they're in Philly or what's going on there, but the other thing going on there is that defense is getting a lot better. Remember last
Oh
year at
yeah.
this time, they fell right off a cliff. That's not been the case. This defense is playing great, great football, dude. They're second in the league at only giving up 18 points a game, first in total yards, second in passing defense, eighth in rushing defense, 37 sacks, 8 interceptions. So when you're playing that good a defense and you can run the ball, that is the type of game that translates to postseason wins. And I hate that that's what I'm envisioning here. But
Yep.
Philadelphia, dude, they're playing some good football. So
Yeah.
this is a huge game for both of them. You mentioned, dude, if Detroit loses that game and Philly wins, right, look up there, dude. So
Right.
lots to play for. And then Philly, dude, down the stretch.
Mm-hmm.
They just a couple games in the NFC East at the Commanders, host the Cowboys, host the Giants, 2-1 minimum if they need
Right.
those games, probably 3-0.
Certainly, no doubt about it. Wow, this is going to be a great game. A lot on the line.
Big time.
All right, up next is the Indianapolis Colts at the Denver Broncos. Broncos are at home and favored by 3.5.
Yeah, and these Colts, dude, we mentioned it at 6-7. They're right on the outskirts of playoff town now, and coming off their bye too. It's not that they do anything really great, but it's just a pretty good football team with good
Yeah,
players. So they're going to need to work some magic, dude. But down the stretch, if they can get past these Broncos, then they host the Titans at the Giants, host the Jags, dude. So um, 4
some
wins gets
yeah,
those Cats to 11 wins on the season. I
right.
think that
They're
gets you into
sneaky,
the damn
just sitting there,
playoffs.
aren't they? A
Yeah. So
little
they
nerve wracking.
yeah, they've played some teams tough and gotten blown out a couple times. So I'm not sure what to expect out of them when Anthony Richardson's on his game, dude, and they get Jonathan Taylor going. This is an exciting football team. So their season kind of lies in this Broncos game. And then you flip it over to the Broncos, man. I love this Broncos defense, dude. I've been telling
Yeah,
everybody that would listen about Nick Bonito, and now finally the rest of the NFL is starting to hear about him too. But you see this team taking over Sean Payton's personality, dude. He's got a quarterback that listens to him. He's got the receivers. He's got the running game. So it looks like they hit a home run with Bo Nix. This is an important game for the Broncos too. They're in the cozy playoff bubble now. You drop
yeah,
a couple games, who knows what can happen. Don't mess around. Beat those Colts at home in the Peyton Manning Bowl.
no doubt about it. And the Broncos, obviously, the way Nix has played early here in his career, and the young receivers, Devon Vele and Troy Franklin, to go along with Cortland Sutton, who's the main dude there.
Hey, Marvin Mims Jr., please.
Hello, they've got some weapons. There's no doubt that they're to be reckoned with. And you talk about Vance Joseph defense on the other side, man. Those guys are playing very, very good defense.
Well, this game probably won't be saying that at the end of it, although it could be low scoring. We're talking the New England Patriots at the Arizona Cardinals, and the Cardinals are 6-point favorites in this one.
Yeah, Patriots 3-10. They're coming off their bye. Good news for this 3-win team is they have their head coach in Mayo. They have their quarterback of the future in Drake May, right? And now they just need to put pieces around the QB to help them develop. Patriots are one of 6 3-win teams, but they hold the highest pick of all of them. So they currently pick third. So they don't want to they don't want to screw this thing up
Yeah.
and win a football game here. Cardinals on the other side, they're 6-7 after losing to division rival Seattle last week, and it was a damaging loss. That was their third straight loss after previously winning 4 in a row and really surging. Now they're just fizzling out. They've been swept by the Seahawks, so they're 2 games behind them, and they lose the tiebreaker, meaning they basically have to win out and have Seattle lose 3 of 4, or if Seattle loses all 4, then they could afford to lose 1. Otherwise, no playoffs for these guys. So one-team division. They're a game also behind the Rams in their own division, who they did beat in week 2, and they still play again. So they have to win and hope for miracles, basically all around, everything to kind of come into place. But they do have some winnable games. It's Carolina, who's been playing well, then the Rams, who obviously lit it up last week, and then San Francisco, who's had a tough season. So Seahawks here in control of this division, but the Cardinals still have a prayer. And that's
Yeah,
about it.
they sure do.
Yeah. So up next, it is the Tampa Bay Buccaneers at our Los Angeles Chargers. The Chargers are at home and favored by 3.
Yeah, and dude, Tampa Bay, man, they played some pretty damn good football. Baker Mayfield, baby. You know, you don't love him this week, but you love him after
Yeah,
that. He's
I
been
do.
playing some really good football. Finally got Mike Evans back. That's helped out a lot. And I hope to have Bucky Irving in this game, dude, because this cat has been electric. He's over 5 yards a rush
Yeah.
with 6 touchdowns. And not only that, dude had another 300 yards and over 8 yards of reception there. So he's very dangerous. Rashad White was actually pretty good last week, too.
Very
So
good. Yeah.
getting that 1-2 punch going there. And the Bucks, they've lost 3 or 4 games on the last possession, including getting swept by the Falcons. Well, the Falcons are free falling, and now the Bucks have that South again. So they got to keep winning, dude. This is going to be a very difficult game at our Chargers this week, at my Cowboys next week. Then they're hosting the Panthers, who gave them all they wanted a couple weeks ago, sent them into overtime. And then you probably got to give me against the Saints, but they can't mess around and let these Falcons get back in it. So beating these Chargers would not only keep them atop of that NFC South, it would be a good, grimy win against the team that's kind of getting it all together, dude. We got to see how your Chargers bounce back from that brutal loss last week. See if Harbs is in their ears and gets these guys motivated for Sunday. I think he will.
Yeah, I mean, they had lost a handful of weeks back to the Ravens on national television. They responded well, um, getting the Falcons the next week, and then of course the Super Bowl champions had their number, like they have. I don't know how many times, 3 out of the last 22 or something, 6 times in a row, I believe it is. The Chargers lose to the Chiefs. It was right along the standard script, which is they lose on the last second field goal. The Chargers offense struggled mightily in the first half to get anything going, but in the second half, they scored on all 3 possessions there. Unfortunately, Lad McConkey was not in this game, and he was missed big time.
Yeah.
Uh, they didn't have a go-to guy at receiver, but they did have some of the other guys step up. A good game out of Josh Palmer. Quentin Johnston rebounded after a couple of crappy games there where he was seemingly losing his confidence. Caught a big one over the middle, took a huge hit, held on to it. So it was a nice game for both of those guys. Also, um, Stone Smart was in on some action, caught 3 balls, all for first downs. So they'll likely get Lad McConkey back, but also Will Dissly, their best receiving tight end, is also going to definitely miss this game, and a couple of more probably with the shoulder issue. Also, no J.K. Dobbins last week. He's on IR, but Kamani Vidal, the rookie, got some stuff going along with Gus Edwards there. So they need that combo of 2 backs to really sort of provide something in the run game. Defensively, this team has been great. Number 1 in points given up at under 16 points a game, 5th in sacks with 39, 17 takeaways, and Herbert still hasn't thrown a pick since week 2, a franchise
That's
record,
awesome.
11 games. It's something like 320 plus passes there. So the Chargers turnover ratio plus 11. Chargers obviously need to get this W or a couple of W's along the way to get themselves to be in that playoff spot that they're hanging right now in the 6th seed. They play this game, then next week it's Denver. So that'll be a pivotal one for who gets that 6th or 7th seed there. And then after that, finishing up softer with a little New England and the Raiders at the end, 2 teams that probably don't want to win because they're picking 1st and 2nd in the draft. Should be a real good football game, though. This one, sneaky good, I think, considering these 2 teams. 7 wins for the Bucks, 8 wins for the Chargers. Pretty exciting the way the Bucks play football too, with Baker just slinging it.
Oh yeah, top 10 offense over there. This is gonna be a fun game. Dave, we're gonna take the ball and we're gonna score. You remember that?
Oh, I do remember that. That
All
was
right. Well, this time
words.
It's in Seattle, where the last playoff game there against these 2 teams, I think the Packers blew a 19-point lead. I don't remember. It was the onside kick that the guy touched. Anyways, it is the Green Bay Packers at the Seattle Seahawks, and the Packers are 3-point favorites in this one.
Yeah, Packers lost to the Lions last week, as I mentioned previously, on a last-second field goal. That dropped their record to 9-4. They have won 7 of the last 9 games, though, losing only to the Lions twice in that time span. So beating everybody else. The loss prior to that, also in the division, that was against Minnesota. So as far as the division goes, they're 3 games behind Detroit, 2 behind Minnesota. So that essentially is not happening for them. But good news for the wild card, they're currently in the 6th seed with a game lead over Washington, right, and a two-game lead over the Rams, who are kind of on the outside trying to get into that mix there. They just need a couple more wins, and they should be in this week, though. It is a tough Seattle team that also cannot afford to lose. But then after this game for the Pack, it's up the New Orleans, then Minnesota, another tough game for them, and then Chicago. Feisty.
Yeah, yeah, and Seattle really needs this one too because they have that lead in the NFC West. And they would like to get a little more distance between
Yeah.
them and the surging Rams.
Yep.
Dude, we talk about it every week. The Seahawks need to run the ball better. They got to get Kenneth Walker going. Well, Kenneth Walker was down last week, and Charbonnet came in there, and he totally dominated. Maybe
Yep.
that is the spark that this running game needed because he was unstoppable. And what else has been unstoppable is that pass game. Geno's been great, 3rd in the league, almost 250 a game. Jackson Smith and Jigba has become the dude this year. We knew
Yes,
he
he
was
has.
rising up, but we didn't think he was going to surpass DK. But that's been the case here, and he's gotten past Lockett as well. But Smith and Jigba, dude, he's so fun to watch. I love watching this guy play football. And on the other side, dude, Mike McDonald got this defense playing good football. They've gotten a couple grimy wins out of the way the last few weeks, beating the Niners, sweeping the Cardinals there.
Yeah,
But
that was
after
huge.
this game, dude, they host the Vikings at the Bears and then at the Rams. So nothing's given to these guys. They could slip away. Rams could take that division from them in the last week of the season.
Yep.
So they got to find a way to try to get this win against the Packers because it's not getting any easier for these guys. This should be a great football game. Oh, we forgot the fail Mary there too with the replacement refs a couple years
Oh,
ago.
yeah. That was a good
Touchdown.
one.
Touchdown.
Good
Oh,
work there. All right. That is going to be some good stuff there, Casey. Let's move it on to Monday Night Football, though, where there is one of these stupid stagger start double headers. I guess they were figuring maybe one of these games won't suck. I don't know what their plan was there, but start them 2.5 hours or 3 hours apart, please, so they don't overlap over each other. And then they have to do that stupid split screen where I'm trying to already watch it on 2 TVs. Now I'm seeing a double vision here. All right, starting this things off, Casey, it's the Chicago Bears at the Minnesota Vikings. Vikings are at home and favored by 7 in this one.
yeah, dude. And the Vikings quietly sitting right up there within striking distance of both the Eagles
Yes.
and the Lions, dude. A couple games go their way, and all of a sudden the Vikings could be the #1 seed in the NFC, dude. So they can't mess around with these stupid Bears. They got to get after Caleb. They tried to give this game away a couple weeks ago. That was in Chicago. They had the lead. They gave it up late. They gave up the onside kick. So they were lucky to get out of there with the win. But
Yep.
dude, how many wins is that in a row now? I think that's 6 or 7 wins in a row for this Viking squad. So playing pretty good football. I love the Brian Flores defense. I love the run game for these Vikings with Aaron Jones. Jordan Addison last week, 3 touchdowns. I think Jetta had
Stellar.
2 touchdowns.
Yep.
So
Outlandish.
Sam Darnold is
5
just
TDs
printing
for
money.
Darnold, man.
Good for
Fantastic.
him, bro.
Yep.
Everybody is so quick to throw this guy in the trash bin. It's like wrong. He was just on the Jets. That a lot that happens to quarterbacks. Look what's going on with Aaron Rodgers in Jets land. So it's great to see what happens. Not sure if he's going to be in their plan next year. If it's me, JJ, we're sitting one more year, bro. We're getting healthy. We're letting Sam Darnold continue what he's doing here for at least one more season, but he's going to have plenty of people wanting to come give him a bunch of cash in the offseason. But don't mess around with these stupid Bears. Then it's at Seattle, hosting the Pack, and then at Detroit. So that's a brutal stretch for these guys.
Oh,
So go ahead
that's
and beat these
brutal.
Bears right now. And it's all bad. We saw some flashes for the Bears, but There is a lot wrong with the team right now. Caleb's not playing well. They're not doing really anything well. They need a new head coach. They've already fired their OC too, fired the head coach. So the Bears are in shambles, looking to hibernate, bro.
No doubt. I love what Kevin O'Connell has been able to do for Sam Darnold. That, like you said, he's a free agent, so something's going to happen real good for Sam Darnold at the end of this season. I would like to say I want him still on the Vikings. That's, why get rid of something that is working for the
No doubt.
potential of a JJ. Nothing against McCarthy, but man, keep this thing going, man. Let's see what happens.
It's so precarious. You don't know if your quarterback's going to make it through the year.
Yeah,
They're always
50,
hit away.
50 when you draft a kid.
Yeah, so keep working with Darnold, pay him, and let JJ learn from a guy that's been there. He can also help him as being a high draft pick and so much expectation, kind of navigate those waters too. But Dave, if they, foul. I'm trying to stay. All right, straight face. And this doubleheader on Monday Night Football, the Atlanta Falcons at the Las Vegas Raiders, and somehow the Falcons are only 3.5-point favorites in this game. But I can't boycott it because it's football. But the stupid staggered start, trash.
Yeah. And the Falcons, man. I guess the Raiders have been playing tough though. They could have beat the Chiefs a couple weeks back. But let's go to this Falcons team's first 6-7, coming off a blowout to the Vikings, where they just could not stop Sam Darnold in that offense, man. They've lost 4 straight games. I mean, this was a team that looked like they were definitely heading towards the playoffs. 4 losses in a row, and here they are at 6-7. It's not entirely over yet. Here's why. They're in second place, just a game behind Tampa Bay, but they hold the tiebreaker with the Bucs, having swept the Bucs. So if they just win one more game than the Bucs, then they can win the division and go to the playoffs. That's the way they get it done. They're also just 2 games back of that last wild card spot, which is Washington at 8-5. So 2 games is a long way to travel. But there's 4 games left, and crazier stuff has happened for sure. So it would have to start, obviously, by stacking 1 game here. Maybe Washington loses or Tampa loses this week, and they're in business. Now, up next for the Falcons, it's the Giants, Washington. So there they could control their own destiny, right? And then Carolina. So some really winnable football games. So when you think about it, can Kirk Cousins and this Falcons team just get it figured out this week, beat the Raiders, beat the Giants next week, beat the Commanders, and then beat the Panthers to finish the league? They're in the playoffs, right?
Yeah, and 2 of those teams are trying to tank and get that quarterback next year, so I don't know if they're going to meet any resistance.
It's not that unlikely at this point, even though they've lost 4 straight and they haven't been playing good. But now, hey, just what you need, the Raiders, right? They lost last week to Tampa Bay. They fall to 2-11. They've lost 9 in a row. They're one of the 2-11 teams, but they currently hold the number 1 pick in the draft, so they really do not necessarily want to win. Of course, they want to be able to pick their quarterback in next year's draft, not take the leftovers from the Giants, right? So they cannot afford to win here. But of course, the coaches and players, they're playing for their jobs, so they want to win. After this, they will have Jacksonville, New Orleans, and then the Chargers to finish this season. So they got some winnable games in there. Hopefully not against my Chargers, but this will be interesting. The Falcons really need this, and the Raiders really ultimately, in the bigger picture, need to lose.
Yeah, and you got their 3rd quarterback of the year playing.
Desmond Ridder will be the guy. That's true.
And they're not looking to win, Dave.
Yes, they are not. Okay, folks, that is going to do it for this week. Week 15 is going to be a good one. So many ways you can check out the Football Dudes, the Trend Zone, available for subscription on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Amazon Music, wherever you get your podcasts.
Yeah, go ahead and subscribe to the Football Dudes YouTube channel. Like us on Instagram and Facebook. Follow us on Twitter, Football Dudes LA. Make sure you tag us across all social media platforms.
Or just go to footballdudes.com. It's all there for you. That's going to do it for this episode of Trend Zone. We're not the suits that talk football. We're the dudes that know football. For Casey, I'm Dave, and we are out of here.